So there is currently a recount going on in both Florida and Georgia when it comes to last week's elections. So very, very important elections. You've got the governor's gubernatorial election in both Georgia and Florida. Rick Scott versus Bill Nelson for the Senate. Andrew Gillum versus Ron DeSantis. Stacey Abrams, versus her opponent. So that's Brian Kemp, by the way, who has been doing a lot of voter suppression. So these races are incredibly close. And for Florida especially, Florida is very, very important. Not to say Georgia isn't very, very important. That would be a huge bellwether race. If Stacey Abrams wins in Georgia, she's deeply progressive. And so her win would be monumental. But so would Florida, as Florida plays a really important role in 2020. So, of course, Republicans are very, very interested in keeping control of course, both of those areas and both of those governorships. Now, of course, Rick Scott and Donald Trump now, since the recount had begun, they have been trying to fight it. There's nothing more that Republicans hate when you count all the votes. Okay, they despise that. They're like, how dare you count all these votes? So now, lately, they've been going forward with the attack of voter fraud, the implication of voter fraud. Oh, we've got all this voter fraud happening in Florida. In fact, Trump had said Republicans don't win, and that's because of potentially illegal votes. This is him talking to the Daily Caller on Wednesday. He said, when people get in line that have absolutely no right to vote and they go around in circles, sometimes they go to their car, put on a different hat, put on a different shirt, come in and vote again. Nobody takes anything. It's really a disgrace what's going on. So now, wait. He's talking about people just going and putting on a different hat and coming and voting again. Pretty sure that doesn't happen. Pretty sure this never happened. We're at a point in this country that is such an absurd statement on its face. It is so absurd, though, when you look at voter turnout. Now, this was a record turnout. But if you compare it to other countries, especially countries, of course, with compulsory voting, but even other countries that don't have, the United States, with our record turnout in the midterms, is still laughably low compared to so many different countries. People in America don't care. So if you think they don't care now, what makes you think that they would care enough to perpetuate voter fraud, in-person voter fraud? When the Voter Fraud Commission, headed up by Chris Kobach for the Trump administration, found that there was an infinitesimally small percentage of in-person voter fraud to begin with. Over all the years that they studied, they found like 0.000000275% rate of in-person voter fraud. It is nearly unheard of. You are more likely to get struck by lightning or have a vending machine fall on you than to do in-person voter fraud. It is that freaking rare. So, of course, this is absolute baseless, right? Completely baseless allegations. But Rick Scott is also alleging voter fraud. Donald Trump alleging voter fraud. Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. Hey, Jeb Bush, by the way.
Please clap.
Yeah, exactly. They're all alleging that something is fishy with the votes. And then you've got some people on the left that are also saying things are fishy with the votes. And so here you have this perfect storm. Now, I think that every vote should be counted. And Gillum and the Democrats and everything also believe that every vote should be counted, right? No matter what the result turns out to be. And right now, look, it's possible that Bill Nelson and Andrew Gillum just don't have enough votes. But some of the vote counts in a lot of different areas since the election have flipped seats over to Democrats, turning it into an actual blue wave. So now on election night or after election night, I said, look, this is like sort of a mid-sized wave. It's not a tsunami. I was wrong. It actually turned out to be a much bigger wave than was apparent on election night. We still today are having results. I think yesterday it was Kristen Sinema that was declared the winner in her Arizona race. And we have another race or other races today that have been announced to be in favor for Democrats. But no, it must be voter fraud because people are coming in and they're doing, they're putting on different hats and shirts and they're coming in and they're voting. They're voting twice. They're voting 3 times, 4 times. I mean, it's a disgrace what's happening, what's going on. Now, all this, of course, is to set up the need for voter ID. Now, this is the way, of course, that to disenfranchise Democrats, older people of color, especially college students, etc., people that don't necessarily have IDs. Now, you think, oh, come on. Why would people not have IDs? Like, I've got an ID, I've got a driver's license, but you got to think about it. People in the big city, living in places like New York and LA, do they necessarily need their own cars when you have public transportation? Why would you even need to get a license in that area? And if you're living in the inner city and, you know, maybe you don't have enough money for a vehicle or enough money for insurance, well, then you're going to have public transportation and you're not going to be using a car. So why would you need a license for that? Why would you need an ID? And it does cost extra, not only just money, but time to get that voter ID. That said, Trump has a very interesting idea of what you actually need ID for. He also said, after he went on this thing, this tirade about people changing their hats and coming in and voting, he said, quote, "If you buy a box of cereal, you have a voter ID." What kind of cereal is this guy buying? I bought cereal a lot. I buy cereal plenty of times. I don't need no voter ID. Where's he shopping? No, odds are, and this pretty much guarantees that this man has never shopped for himself for his entire life. He's never been to a grocery store. You know, his shopping is, hey, this is what I need. Go get it. And by the way, when you're out, go pick me up a cheeseburger and a Diet Coke, some chicken nuggets or something. Give you a 20 piece. That's his shopping. Somebody else does it. He's never bought cereal before. He has no idea what he's talking about. No idea. Look, the voter fraud stuff is ridiculous on its face, right? But all these Republicans, they parrot that because they believe that there's this big scourge of voter fraud, right? That's ridiculous enough. But the cereal thing, that just pushes it into absolute absurd bullshit territory. And the likes that we've never seen before. Never seen. Tremendous bullshit pouring out of every single orifice. That's what's happening here. That's the argument. It's completely ridiculous. But look, MAGA guys, Republicans, you voted for this guy because you thought that he was going to be able to understand you, that he actually understands what you go through. The guy's never been shopping by himself for his entire life. He has no idea what it's like to be a regular human being. No idea. He was born in the lap of luxury, pampered his entire life, given all the money he could ever want. He was a millionaire by the age of 2. Or I should say, sorry, the age of 8. He was a millionaire. I know, right? A little later than I thought, but at least he got there, right? Hard work and gumption. He does not have anything in common with you other than the fact that occasionally you probably eat the same food, McDonald's, right? And breathe air. That's it. That's all you have in common. He doesn't represent you and has no idea what he's talking about. I don't know, maybe you should consider voting for politicians that actually represent you. And not for conspiracy mongering rich frat boys like Donald Trump. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.